Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you. Also, our other sponsor, Justin Snicker, Dr. Snick, a.k.a. the Sonic Surgeon, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, whose music can be found pretty much anywhere that good music can be found. So check him out. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis for all the artwork that you see on the Outer Realm. Thank you, thank you. Tonight welcomes for the very first time Alan B. Smith, and he's going to be discussing his paranormal, let me see if I can get this up here, his paranormal film, and I'm going to put it right up here, guys, right there. So he's going to be discussing Half-Light, and he's going to be, it's going to be including some paranormal talk. He's going to have some, UFO talk, ETs, you name it. I think he's got a lot of experiences to share, so we're looking forward to hearing all about it. But in order to do that, we are on, again, 8 different platforms. And those are, let me get in there. Okay, so if you're on YouTube, you're at The Outer Realm, you're at UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, UFO Paranormal Radio, News on the Flip Side on Facebook, UFO Paranormal Radio, and United Public Radio Facebook, Canada's Most Haunted, of course, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. So I think I got News on the Flip Side. So a lot of people chiming in, and wow, yeah, everybody, thank you. This is great. Amelia, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
Together here. Good. I'm okay, man. I'm okay.
It's the first day of fall.
It's been a day.
Oh, yeah. It's only Wednesday.
It is. I had back-to-back meetings, and then, this kind of came out of it. It's like, what time is it? What day is it? But it was good. Yeah. It was good. Can't complain.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Always love show night. Just why is it that, show day is just always extra busy, it seems.
I think you're a very busy person. I think that you're just so busy, you just notice it more on show night, because then it's just one added, because we work on the opposite nights. So it's not like we're not working.
It's true.
It's just you notice it because the pressure of 9 o'clock kind of thing. Anyways, true. That's how it is for me, because Tuesdays and Fridays we work together, Michelle and I, and our time that we work is never really set in stone. It's how the day goes, and when are you going to be home, and when are you going to be home, and that kind of thing. But Wednesday and Thursdays, you have to have your butt in your seat by this time.
I do, and alternate Saturdays so for the other show, right? Like it's crazy. But I think what we're going to be doing for October with the Grey Zone Uncensored is going back and playing, I think, archives from the original shows.
Yeah.
So
exciting.
I know. But just because October is just extra busy for
it really
me
is.
And definitely, Joe as well. So we're just sort of like, what? I came up with a brilliant idea. Hey, why don't we do this? I say brilliant because it says I spent 25 hours a week, pretty much 20 to 25 doing research, man. Or for every show. So when it's bi-weekly, it's like every show. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
That's exhausting. It's exhausting. I've been in that seat. It's not pleasant. It's pleasant because you're researching what you love and what you enjoy, but you're a perfectionist, and we are we are women of details. So
we are.
Those things have to be precise, and it takes time, and you don't want to give anything but your best to your audience.
It does.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows when you do the shows. Yeah.
We have, thank you. We have, a lot of listeners on our shows. We're very fortunate. I mean, the Outer Realm gets between 2.5, 3 million live listeners, a night. No pressure there, Ellen. And, but the Gray Zone hits between sometimes 3 and 4 million. And that's all information. So that's all falling on the hosts.
It's it's like a lecture. It's like going to a talk. You learn a lot from those shows. I watch them just to learn, so I can keep up with the guests. But
exactly.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work.
I have emailed you the link, Ellen. We're waiting for it, so maybe we can. We'll just read off the bio.
Yes, I wrote a beautiful intro today and misplaced it. I know, because I was watching the film and I was writing the intro as I was watching his film. And if you didn't see his film, it is on our Facebook page and it is on my timeline as well. We shared it up so that you have the link on YouTube to watch it. Don't watch it now, please. But you will probably be even more interested to see it after he's talking about it, because it's really, really well done.
There we go.
Our guest tonight is the director of the documentary Half Light. He's also a host of Coffee and UFOs podcast, my kind of guy, host of Paranormal Now live podcast, and he is also a filmmaker. He is a technical. Forgive me, because I just lost my. Seriously, I'm like, forgive me. I've got to start this again. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, because see, I don't have my paperwork, so this is what happens. At the age of 12, Alan had a life-changing experience with a childhood friend when they witnessed a UFO from the backseat of a car as they peered out at the dark, starlit New Jersey sky. So he's an experiencer as well, which is really interesting. And then when you see his documentary, you'll understand why he did this. So, yes. His entry into paranormal media began in 2015 as a guest host on Ken Cherry's Epic Voyages Radio, where he also served as a technical director. That's where I messed up. Sorry. He later began his own live 2-hour podcast entitled Paranormal Now. So let us bring him on, and he can tell you all about himself without all the glitches that I brought in there. And my apologies.
All righty, here we go. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, how are you? Sorry about the tongue tie. I had this beautiful intro written out for you. I was watching your film today. I love it. And of course, I recognize Cheryl Costa right away because she's a frequent guest. So the voice, and literally just last 2 weeks. So her voice just captured me right away. I'm like, oh, Cheryl's on this. So I wrote this beautiful. And I'll just have to email it to you because it's somewhere in my house. At some point, grabbing between 25 coffees today. It's in between there somewhere in a trail. It's probably on my kitchen counter. I'm so sorry.
No, I can relate. I've reduced my coffees, though, to about 20.
Have you reduced them to 20?
I have my latte every morning. That's as good as it gets.
I'm drinking cold brew right now. We know whose this is.
Yes, we do.
So,
I just want to thank you, Michelle, and Amelia, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being
It's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's after being in the field for as long as I've been, it's always nice to see other people's perspectives on everything. And you had such a nice array of people in the film. It was always nice to hear the different stories and their opinions, and because it is really vast. The paranormal is just so non-definitive. You have your basics, but when you hear people who have been at it for a really long time, you can always pick out the ones that just it's just like snapping your fingers. There's just like there's no thinking involved. You just know. So how to start for you? Why don't we start with humble beginnings?
Sure. I do want to comment. I think it's interesting that you said you talk about being non-definitive, because that's a major part of this documentary.
Yes.
Is that there's all this stuff, and it's not like we're not proposing a theory except for this maybe through line of love, but like it's so hard to define this, and like to assume that any of us can really corner this and say, okay, and pronounce this is exactly what I think is going on or what I know is going on. I think those who are seasoned in this know to steer away from that, because you end up contradicting yourself later down the road.
Yes, it's true.
And it could be a week later.
It could be, yeah, totally. Well, when you're doing shows, you're talking to someone and someone has a different perspective on something, and you're going, oh my gosh, like this is completely changing how I see the phenomena.
Every experience, as similar as they really can be, will be different for every person, because it's the individual that's different, and it's the individual that will, how they perceive it. Here, Tamara says it right. There you go.
Paranormal experiences are always a personal experience. Absolutely. Exactly really right. Well said. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is what I always say. And every time I've worked with families, because I work primarily, for the last 2 decades, only malevolent hauntings or alleged demonic infestations. It's just where I chose. I just never found it difficult to do. And it's always different. You've got the basics, but when you're dealing with people with different faiths, different opinions, different fears, different reactions, that's what makes it all different. It's not black and white, cut and dry. You can't go into every place and do the exact same thing, because it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know I'm supposed to do my bio, but I have to respond to that, because what you said there is really, really perceptive, and obviously you're experienced, because whatever these things are, whether it's shadow people or ghosts or extraterrestrials, how can you possibly study something that is, one, clearly sentient and conscious and seemingly aware that you exist, and then it doesn't want to be found, or only wants to show itself just enough? There's no way to do like a proper scientific method approach, because there's no control, there's no regularity, it's so difficult to repeat these experiences.
It has to do with the mindset as well. Of the researcher.
That's true. Yeah.
Or the experiencer. Go ahead, Amelia.
Thank you. We have that signal, so we don't talk. So if you see me pointing, it's not a twitch. Seriously, I'm just like, what I was going to say, because
I just wanted to fit in. So
you can do that too, but you get to speak first, so it doesn't matter.
There we go. That's right.
Don't worry. Don't hurt your finger. Just be you and talk. I love that you said, for something that perhaps doesn't want to be caught, for all we know, it doesn't even know that it is being caught. We're not even positive about that in a different, when you look at it that way, we're not really sure if.
Which makes sense right here.
Yes, because Dolly Saffron, hello, Dolly. I love saying that. I just love saying hello, Dolly.
I know.
The perception totally depends on your psychic abilities. Yes. We had a guest who believes that shadow people are time travelers, and that was the first for me. And I had to
I've heard that theory.
I had to look over that in my mind again, case after case that we've worked on, and things that I've seen, and think, did I read that right?
Some people think shadow people are actually friendly. We're like, never seen one.
Never encountered a friendly shadow. Never encountered one. No,
not a nice one.
No.
Well, that's really interesting, because AJ Rasmussen, who's in the documentary, she explains when she was younger that she saw shadow people, but she never perceived shadow people as bad. She just she felt she literally says that it was a comfort that they were there, and then later contextualized that as they were probably feeding off of her negative experiences, and so negative energy,
or maybe creating it,
or possibly that's the thing,
to
is that
generate that energy for food.
It's one of those moments though where I started to question, because I was going, wait a minute, everybody says that shadow people are evil. But then I was like, maybe they're just around when bad things are happening, but it doesn't mean they're like, maybe are they actually feeding off of you, or are they just curious? Like, are they attracted to that? Like what if they're time travelers? I don't know. Maybe they're.
I don't know, because
that one threw me.
Our world,
that one threw me.
Of working, they're never friendly.
They're never friendly, but I don't know if, like you said, maybe it's where they are, like what you were saying, Michelle. Maybe it's where they are, or the locations, because most of the work you do is malevolent. It's not often that we go in and we have a friendly.
No, it's true.
So we're already expecting that when we go in. So nothing ever really is. But
do you think it would be different?
Hi, Steve.
Being a child versus an adult encountering shadow people?
No, I mean, we've seen children get just as tormented as
tormented
as adults. They can create all kinds of havoc, and they're easy. It's easy for them to hide. Yes. So I don't know. Like I said, we've had people come on who just say, no, they're just another race of people. They're really good. You can get white shadows too. They're not all dark shadows. We've had them in this house, white shadows. Yeah, we've had white shadows here.
I see, and I refer to those as myths, as spiritual myths. Mm-hmm. So I think that could be something too, just like your own kind of labeling, and it's like psychic language. It's not the same for everyone. I wonder if sometimes we're all reading this differently, but we're seeing the same things.
What we'll do is back up a little bit, and maybe you can give us your humble beginnings, like what. Not everybody, I mean, if you drop into this field, it's usually because you've either had an experience or you want an experience. And as you go along through the paranormal, you get into, everybody in the paranormal ends up in ufology in one form or another, because they are connected, as experiences and such. So where do you want to start with everything? Just lead us all in.
Yeah, well, I think that there was one moment that solidified, my interest, lifelong interest in the paranormal, UFOs, and that was when we had a sighting as children. And it wasn't like a CE1, it was a craft or something. It looked like a big star, two of them actually, but one of them happened to move in such a way that was just really uncanny. It struck streaked across the sky, stopped on a dime, streaked across, stopped again, and then at some point it took off into the upper atmosphere like a shooting star in reverse.
Wow.
And that was the weirdest part of it for me, because all these years later, after watching tons and tons of shows, reading books, articles, listening to shows, I still haven't heard a good explanation for what that is. So technically it's a UFO. It was a goosebump moment in your I just explained it in like 5 seconds, but it lasted a little bit longer than that. And my friend and I, we were passengers, a 12-year-old in the back of the car, driving down the what was called the Poor Man's Highway. I always remembered it as the Garden State Highway, but my friend was like, no, it was the Poor Man's Highway, which runs parallel to the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey. And you take the Poor Man's Highway because you can avoid the tolls.
Right, I love it.
Right. And it's lined with like pine trees. It's in the Pine Barrens area. It's really, really beautiful. And it was a clear night, and we just noticed these two things, that were kind of like stars, but not really. They were closer. And from that experience on, I was hooked. And it was only a few years later, maybe 2 years later, that the X-Files came on.
Right.
And that became like a religious watching.
Right. It was. There's a cult following. That thing's great.
Yeah.
I prefer their films over their series, but whatever. That's just my interjection.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, my mom and I, in the beginning, we used to love watching that together and have those conversations about the phenomena. And I agree with you. I think the first movie, oh my gosh, now I'm losing the name. Someone please help me.
It's not I Believe. I think the second one is I Believe.
I Want to Believe. No.
I think I Want to Believe was the last one.
That was the last one.
Yeah. That's with the psychic that comes in.
I can't believe I'm blanking on this. I've watched it like 1,000 times.
Me too.
Anyway, I think that was one of the best. I really, it was quintessential.
It X-Files. Was great. Yeah.
Right.
And it holds up today. It's a great movie.
I watched it this week. That's funny. That's the only reason why I know what the other one's called.
Yeah. We have a Blu-ray copy because I'm like, I can only watch this in the best possible.
I know it's
like
medium. Right? Stuff.
Yeah,
it's the best stuff. I know I had a friend who was on both the X-Files and on Millennium, because same producer.
Very cool.
Yeah, he always plays a bad guy. It's like, you always have to play an a-hole and everything you're in.
Sometimes people are just naturally,
I know.
And I'm guessing he's a nice person, right?
Oh yeah, he is. He's the nicest guy.
It's usually that way. It's like their alter ego that comes forward and really takes charge, right?
No, it's true. But it's very, very cool.
I want to give a quick hello. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Steve. Hi, Carol. Hi, of course, I said hello, Dolly.
Oh, Into the Future.
Yeah. Oh, right? Okay. No, yes.
Is that,
yes.
No, not Into the. Is it Into the Future?
It was
I'm going to Google it for you.
Yeah,
so you're not going crazy.
We're all going to sit there and just like the whole show is going to be about trying to figure out that X-Files movie. I know it. So,
but the first movie was E.T.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and before that, like the first movie that I saw was E.T. Of course, I saw Close Encounters of the Other Kind, and those were influences. But those were they opened my mind to keep to these ideas. But I don't think if I didn't have that UFO sighting, I'm not sure I'd still be pursuing it in the way that I do now.
Because there's just something. You had UFO sighting before having paranormal experiences, essentially, or did you see, like, which came first for you?
Oh, it was that UFO at 12 years old for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we were frolicking through the woods in the Pine Barrens looking for the Jersey Devil.
Of course. I was going to say, you live in freaking Jersey. Of course you're out looking for it.
We didn't find it, unfortunately. But, I tend to think that the Jersey Devil is myth, is folklore. But, again,
I'll do you think it could be interdimensional or dimensional, just like popping through portals?
I mean, it could be. And if people are still witnessing, which they are up until fairly recently, there are reports. Maybe the problem is that two separate things got overlapped, like the Leeds family mythology overlapped with some other something that's being seen. So
what's the real story?
Right. Maybe this is some kind of weird cryptid and it has nothing to do with the Leeds family.
No, just the timing.
But the Leeds family, it's perfect horror story.
It is. It is. So, I know. It's amazing. So
like the birthing of a demon child. I mean, that's
I know. It gets it's a perfect storm of
Sophie Bonnuit.
Yeah. Hello, Sophie.
I think it's Fight the Future.
Fight the Future.
It's hard to read it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, no problem. I had to look that up. That's something to do with Texas and that, right? So
the black oil.
Yes.
I don't know if that was an episode or a film. That was not easy to read on Google. Just saying, Google, not happy, but that wasn't easy to read. It kept coming up with all the episodes. But anyways, we have an idea.
So you started at a young age to pursue the paranormal. And why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly an interest. It wasn't, the more research pursuit side of it came later. But like so many other people, when you've had those experiences, you read books. Whenever you go to the library, I always go to the New Age section. I have to go there, otherwise it doesn't feel like a proper visit. Or bookstores, which we're having less and less now. But
true. That's
true.
true.
I mean, I used to love that, walking through the bookstore and just like picking something up random off the shelf, sitting down, reading a little bit, deciding whether I want to get it. It's just not the same digitally experience for me. But that was something I did for years and years. And I didn't get involved into the podcasting until was it 2016.
Right.
And I've been doing it since then. Yeah.
It's interesting. You definitely meet a lot of interesting people. Well, here we are.
No, I love this. I call it the Fortean Fellowship. It's like all these.
It's true. It's true. I always say, like, our shows are very round table. Like, people come on because of our large listenership, and they come on, they're like, I'm so really nervous. I'm like, no. It's not gonna be anything like that. So you're gonna have so much fun, you're not even gonna know what to do with yourself. And they're like, I always get the best emails like, oh, I had such a good time. I'm like, I know. So because some of these topics can be really dark though, and you want to there's a lot of people who tune in, and for us, our biggest listenership is it's all audio because we're an FM station as well.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the listenership that comes in is audio. This is why when we put up the comments, Amelia will read them out because it's for our audio listeners. But you just never know who's listening. And I would hate to think that you're having really dark conversations and maybe you've got like young people listening and they end up being really frightened. So we always try to keep it uplifting, even though it can take a pretty serious tone. So let's talk about the serious tone. Have you had, tell us about some of your darker moments in the field? Have you had any?
Not really. Okay. I've had a scary moment.
Okay.
Creepy moment. So I don't know if I would call it. It depends on who you talk to. So for me, it wasn't that. I wasn't necessarily worried, but we were camping and we were on James Gilliland's ranch. If anybody's familiar with James Gilliland, the East City Ranch in Washington.
Right.
And on his ranch at the time, this was like 2009, 2010, you could go there, put some, a little bit of money, whatever you wanted to, into this little box, and you can camp, just bring your tent and camp on his compound. And he had this center. Yeah.
Get in, but you can never get out.
Right. I'm not. Thank goodness. But I think there's some people that don't want to get out. So he had a space that was designed for CE contact and meditation, all that kind of stuff. We didn't do that. We just spent the night. We were road tripping. And we were hanging out with some people that night who were because apparently there you could see ETs or UFOs, and so they were doing the laser thing in the sky, trying to call down the ETs.
Almost like a CE5.
Yeah. I mean, that was way
back then. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. And we saw this light coming towards us, and then it was getting closer. And then the person we're with is like, "Oh my God, it's them!" And we're like, "Oh my gosh, is this really happening?"
What do we do now?
And then as it gets closer, it's a helicopter.
No.
It goes overhead. And then I'm like, oh no, we're going to get in trouble. We're pointing lasers at a helicopter.
Right.
Right. And so nothing happened. But the people we were with had said that they had seen things before, and hence their excitement because they're like, oh my God, it's happening again. And Mount Adams nearby, people see lights. There are apparently
but you don't fear it,
portals
right?
there. No, it wasn't. There was no sense of fear at all. It was much more celebratory, embracing the weirdness.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to embrace the weirdness, but I mean, so
what weirdness? I know. Maybe we're the normal ones. Excuse me.
So
maybe they're the weirdos.
Your perspective on ETs, then? Do you think there's something to fear? You've interviewed all these people. Do you think? Because I mean, let's face it. You have media and everybody just fear factor, false flag, one after the other. What is your opinion on that?
Wow. Okay. That's a great question. So that's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. Yeah. I mean, so half-light, the reason it's called half-light is one, the sort of yin and yang of all these things, which Jane Kyle kind of references in her own way in the documentary. But it's also the darkness and the light of the paranormal. There is that scarier, trepidatious side of looking into it, and it doesn't even require going out into the woods with a flashlight and a night camera. Just sitting at home reading a book and sort of opening yourself up to that realm can be a very scary experience. And a lot of people, you can't even talk to them about ghosts. They forget about going to see movies. They don't do the campfire thing. No. Because I think we instinctually know that there are some dangerous forces out there, whatever they might be.
Absolutely.
But the ET thing is complicated because, a friend of mine, Heidi Hollis, had asked me that question, and I was really struggling with the answer, and it took me some time to think about it. These people who are abducted were allegedly abducted by extraterrestrials. The majority, through statistical study, has shown that over time, 80-something+% see that experience as a positive, but they didn't necessarily start there. It started as a scary, traumatic experience.
But you think it's because of the person's own fear? I mean, being taken without permission or without knowledge, or hey, what the hell are you doing in my bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning? Maybe that's something that simple.
That one sounds a little personal, Michelle.
Right? But maybe it's our reaction that makes it a bad experience, is what I guess.
Certainly, yeah. Let's say you're walking in the woods and something walks into front of your path and you get startled and you freak out, and it's a deer. Right. It's just because you were scared doesn't mean what was happening was a bad thing.
Right.
But there's a difference between that. Let's say they were like, we go out and we tag dolphins, like we capture them in a net and tag them, or sea turtles, and for them it's like, what the heck is going on? This is
something came at me. I was just sleeping in my bedroom.
Right? Maybe they're having coffee with their friends right now on a podcast, going like, I can't believe I was abducted, and they stuck me with a needle.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got an implant.
I'm just imagining sea turtle podcasting.
I like you a lot, Ali. So the dolphins got an implant. I love it.
And they're podcasting about it, right?
Yes.
So that could be us, because what we're doing to the dolphins and the sea turtles is for the species' own good. They don't know that. I mean, maybe dolphins can figure that out. I think that it might be just intelligent enough that they can infer, instinctually know that we're doing something good or positive, constructive for them. I don't know for sure, but that would be pretty interesting. Sea turtles probably not, right? They're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the same thing for us. However, there's a difference between a sea turtle and a human, which is like a much more complex sentient being, and we think in abstract. We can imagine other species that are smarter than us and more advanced than us, and we have debates about ethics and morality. And then for some other species to come and just do whatever the heck they want with us because they think it's the best thing for us, and then compound that with impregnation and like hybridization, and then allegedly taking someone's hybrid child away from them. And then I know like the reports say they get to visit their children, like Debbie Jordan-Kauble and others. But imagine if a human did that to another human. Imagine if like the government had a secret program and was doing this to humans, and
I would be more apt to believe that.
Right. And their justification is, well, we're doing it for the benefit of our society. You'd be like, it's still not okay. Like it's a version of a rape, right? I mean, it's not okay what you're doing to someone's organs and their body and emotional. So I struggle with that. I struggle with that a lot, because in the documentary, the common thread between all these various different paranormal experiences is that all these people who have had like not just some traumatic paranormal experiences or scary experiences, but like really challenging human experiences, what other humans did to them, or just what nature and life just happens, right? And they still turn out to be seekers, spiritually, religiously, metaphysically. And they're all like really awesome people. These are people that I've met and become friends with over the years. And that was part of the reason why I did this. Because originally the documentary was going to be kind of just like a love letter to the paranormal world, the paranormal people. We were in the pandemic and we're all just hanging out on Zoom or whatever. And then it kind of evolved from there. But that's the mystery. And I'm still trying to figure that out. And that's, I kind of think that maybe that'll be the next phase in trying to, and I don't think I'll crack the code, because we've all been at this for so long. But if I can just get like a little piece closer, because I really have a hard time reconciling those really extreme abduction cases
I lean to, my lab for sure. Military abductions for sure. I mean, they're traumatic. They're not, they're not as advanced in their technology. When somebody tells me something, usually you can tell by what they're saying, just with the technology, things that have been done to them. I don't think that, because I've had ET experiences, and they've been, once you realize it, and you just calm your butt down about it. That's the key right there.
Mom did that too.
Calming down. But once you do that, it's just a completely enlightening experiences. Totally enlightening experiences.
Does that mean then that the military, if it's true that it's a military or government, earthly government otherwise, abducting people, that they have the ability to do screen memories as well?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a little something. If you haven't read this book, read it. This is a story about Dolly, actually. Symmetry. I've got it back here on the shelf. Dolly and Preston have been on the show. Dolly. A couple of times, Preston many times, but it is a book by Preston. Done it?
Yeah. I had a chance to chat with Dolly too, and I just want to shout out really quick to Ufi in the chat.
Hello, Ufi.
Yeah.
Hi, Ufi, and MJ, and there is another one.
We have another question on shadow people, so we'll come back to that question, Steve, when we get back to. I don't want to think we're ignoring it. Sorry, Mary.
No, I wanted to say hello to New Brunswick. I can't remember the name. There was someone, Bonnie. Hello in New Brunswick.
Okay.
And I messed up Montreal. It's bonsoir, not bon nuit, but bon nuit in an hour. MJ Gas says, are dreams of the fear of abduction UFOs? I always feel like I have to hide, but then I tell myself it's a dream, but I have a mark on my body that has been unexplained, possibly a scoop mark. A scoop mark.
I've actually heard people talk about that before.
A scoop mark?
Yeah, we had somebody on our show about this before, actually.
Little tiny indentation, almost if you can imagine like a little.
You're kidding, like literally like a scoop.
Yeah,
like
a full check mark.
Yeah, the peelers that you use for like cucumbers and stuff, and at the end they have that little round. It's almost like that. Yeah.
Like it literally a scoop mark. Right.
Yeah, I mean that in like MUFON investigations, like that's like a question that's on like something you ask people. It's common enough. Yeah.
Hi, Yuffie. I'm gonna have nightmares.
But that's what I'm saying. There's just very primitive things that are being done. Do you really think ET would have to have take a scoop out of you, or do you think they would have a more advanced way of getting the same information?
Well, we're stuck with the same problem. Is that what if these ETs are only 100 years, 200 years advanced than us?
I would still imagine that their technology would be better than using something to just.
I still believe that they're much more advanced than only 200 years.
I do believe that maybe they're us in the future. There's also the theories that. Where do you think? I'll ask you this: where do you think they come from?
Oh, I think that there are probably more than one.
Absolutely.
So I think that they have the ability to perhaps slide in between dimensions, or because they have a way of sort of suddenly disappearing, right? So I'm not sure what that is exactly. But I would imagine that they are physical beings from other planets. I mean, oftentimes that's exactly the message that experiencers have, and contactees are told they're from, Sirius or Zeta Reticuli or wherever it is.
And military would tell you the same thing.
Absolutely.
There are theories that they're right here. We have underwater bases pretty much everywhere. You have the Hopi people who spoke of. They're friends with the big eyes, the ant people, they call them, that came from underground. They're the reptilians that come from underground. Probably, maybe they settled here a long time ago, because we're certainly not like the first kick at the can. That's for sure. We're probably the third or fourth round here. She says they do travel interdimensionally.
Yeah. I mean, like in the caves,
using light technology. Hi, Marlena.
We've seen them for so long. We've seen them. Our ancestors have seen them. Like the Altamira cave in Spain. There's paintings in Australia that depict these gods that have giant eyes and they look like great aliens.
Yes.
And they're sky gods, right? I mean, this is it's a little too strange. It's a little too coincidental to me.
Right.
That we have so many rock paintings and myths around the world.
So much recorded.
So much recorded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ancient Egyptians, with elongating their heads to emulate godlike features. So that's like a physical change, that it was that important to them, not just a painting on a rock. And they oftentimes they're the ones that show you the way. Like you said, the ant people showed the Hopi into like the fourth world out of the
that's right
the underground, and helped protect them. And I think that they don't reside here. I think they're probably underground bases because there's only so many places you can hide. I know there's places we haven't seen yet, really deep, but that just seems more likely to me that they're extraterrestrials that are studying us and doing whatever they want, and it's just easy to hide in the ocean, because the moon became off limits for a while ago. So if they did have bases, I feel like they moved off the moon.
The dark side. The dark side's not so dark, is it?
It's not so dark anymore.
No, it's not so dark.
I think there's just a lot of different theories, which I love. I mean, if you think about it, just look at South America, a lot of the temples that have the serpent gods, there's stories of, there's one town that actually has a reptilian with a robe, and it's a statue in the middle of the town. And this was a reptilian who was said to have taken to going underground with the locals when I guess it must have been like a national a global, not global, but a tragedy that happened within, environmental catastrophe that happened. And he went underground. He taught them how to survive. He educated them. The town erected a statue to the guy, And then let's look at the Bible. Let's look at our first alien abductee, Enoch, Ezekiel. It's like there's stuff everywhere. So.
Were they abducted, or did they go willingly?
Experiencer, yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, that that brings me back to part of that challenge, Amelia, is that did he choose to go or not? And with abductees, after a while they do choose to go, but is that a trauma response? Is that
I know. I think the same way you do. I do. Yeah. Is it traumatic, or is it, is it out of fear that they're going, or is it because they want to be a part of some greater good that they're told?
Yeah.
I struggle with that as well.
It's, I don't know. There's a lot, and it could take you down an even bigger rabbit hole. This is what I like. This is the round table effect. We just all bounce ideas around, and it just brings on other different types of conversation.
Yeah, it's the same struggle I have with religion.
Yeah, let's go down that rabbit hole. Do it.
Right.
None of us struggle with that.
No, not one person.
Yeah, let's do it.
A friend of mine who is not religious, but believes in Jesus, has the same concerns we have about alien abductions and if that's right or wrong, and how can that be a positive? If you're doing these things to people, how are they coming out of it? Now, I'm not subscribing to this, so I'm just sharing.
Don't shoot the messenger, people. Is what he's trying to say.
Here. Okay. So yes, thank you for that.
Got your back.
So Jesus,
yes.
Right? He didn't choose what happened to him. He was chosen by God. I mean, you can make the argument he was God, but Jesus also claims that technically we're all God too, via love, and there's examples in scripture for that. But to go through this sacrifice and suffering torture. Like that's not cool. Like if you're just a regular human being, right? Like I would not ask my friend to do anything like that at all. Someone I loved, I would never. And yet in the Bible contextualizes that like it's something kind of like the, a little bit like the hero's myth. He had to go through this journey into the abyss, into the darkness, and but the difference between the hero's myth is the hero chooses that.
That's right.
The hero journey, he or she goes on this adventure and gets challenged and then grows spiritually from that. And sometimes there are events that cause them, that spur that, but it's not some being that goes, I'm going to make you suffer. Here you go. Right. And that's what the aliens seem to be doing in some of these cases. And that's what, God did to Jesus and Mary, and Joseph had no say in having a child together. But it's okay because God. And so you can make that parallel with the extraterrestrials. So if you're okay with the religion doing that, then I guess you could be okay with ETs doing that if you believe that in the end it's all towards some benevolent cause that we just simply can't comprehend. I mean, maybe these extraterrestrials are like 5th, 6th, 10th dimensional beings that are just so beyond us intellectually, spiritually.
How do we know that? Okay, I'm going to put this out there. How do we know that God isn't an extraterrestrial? Because if you go back to the Old Testament, he was called the Hebrew God, and he would say, "You shall not worship any other god before me." There were gods. So,
but he
just ended up with Yahweh, the Hebrew God.
Yes, but he also, John in the Bible 4 something I can't remember, talks about God is love.
Of course.
And by something like being love or embodying love is to be God.
Right.
And to me, the message I get there is, okay, so the grand message here is God is love. So if you embrace love, you are godly or you are God. If you believe in the whole oneness of the omnipresent, creator, and that we're all just extensions of this center. And then, even Jesus, he was challenged like when he was, I forget what he did, but it was just for blasphemy. He was going to be stoned or something. And
just that.
Yeah. I was like, stoned or something.
I love you more and more as you speak.
So you can tell I'm not religious, but I was raised Catholic.
So were we. Don't worry, we're in the same boat. Yeah,
I gotcha. All right. There's that camaraderie there.
Yes.
So what was I saying? Okay, so they were going to stone him for blasphemy, and he quoted something in the Old Testament. I think it was for a prayer, prophets, something like that, regarding the individuals being like gods, plural, and then there's, so this idea that we're all part of this thing. And God isn't a separate being, separate from us. If you believe that, then you can really twist. And I believe it, but I don't believe what I'm about to say. Then you could really twist this and go, well, whatever they're doing, then, we are kind of taking part in it. This beautiful unfolding. I mean, we're living on this planet, and it's all connected, right? And the documentary, you hear someone like stories from Race or AJ that are just heart-wrenching stories, real stories. It has nothing to do with the paranormal. And he learned from his experiences from that. Years later, he grew up and he learned, and he says it in the film. You have to choose your friends, right? And that kind of ties it into the whole paranormal community, because he was betrayed after a tragic accident, and so bad things happen no matter what. Like we have no control over it, and all we can do is kind of deal with the trauma and try to get through it. And try to learn and grow from it. So does that mean it's inherently like evil, that these bad things happen to us. It just seems to be a part of nature.
We have to have balance.
There has to be balance.
Right.
So, maybe contact with other extraterrestrials is just part of that. It's going to maybe force the human
like an
mind,
awakening.
Like an awakening, yeah.
We have to awaken. We have to evolve. But you see, ET is also about, I think, love and light, because you really do have to evolve, and you have to develop an awareness for them. And basically, it's like an awakening, because if you fear them, you're not going to even want to try to understand it. You can't get by the fear. I think we've had fear, whether it's the paranormal, whether it's ufology, it's a control thing. So much fear gets instilled that you don't get past it. It's just bred into us. So let's like you wouldn't even think about, like, most people saw, for example, a craft. It's just coming down and going into the field. You'll have your curiosity seekers. Not a lot of people would get too close. Other people would be just like, yeah, so we're so not having this. That would be the end of that. I think, to actually embrace it, you would be that person going out there and saying, no, I want contact. I want contact. Period.
So something really weird happened. It didn't even occur to me until like just now, basically. We've talked about on my podcast, I'm sure as you have too, about CE5 and calling down UFOs and like talking to Katie Page recently, and she's like, you just have to do it and it'll happen, right? And on occasion, like I'll say something, right?
Yeah, you like, just do it mentally. Just telepathic,
right. Like some kind of looking out there.
Yeah, not me.
Yes,
like
no, I'm not going out there with anything.
No, okay.
Get out there with your megaphone.
I'm good. But you tell your story. I'm very interested.
Well, so rewinding quickly back years ago, it was during a period where I was just like, in between, in my early years, I really struggled with depression and anxiety and addiction and stuff like that. And I was going through like a very like spiritually inclined period, and very much into psychedelics at the time, and reading and listening to podcasts. And I don't know if you've ever gotten to that place where like you just feel like you're kind of tuned in, like really like locked in, tuned in.
People take DMT, do ayahuasca, and all kinds of stuff.
That'll get you tuned in real fast. Yeah,
that's true. Don't go do it, people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, be responsible, whatever it is. But I was on a bus and I was thinking about this idea, and I was like looking out the window, and I was just thinking like, if you are real, if aliens are real, if you actually can hear human thoughts, like show yourself. Can you show yourself? But I was kind of just thinking this, staring out the window, kind of just locked in, and then a light appeared, and it was a hazy night. So there's that part of me that was like, was it like a tower light that I suddenly saw and then it disappeared, or an airplane that was suddenly turned my direction and then turned away? Was it coincidental, or? But it was the really strange, just timing coincidence of it. And then so last night, I just was thinking about this. I was out there on the deck, and I was looking up at the sky, and I've done it multiple times in the past, but nothing happens. And then last night I was just really kind of like just lost in that thought. When you just kind of get lost in that thought, and like really, like I was like, what the hell, like if you're out there, really in it. Yeah. And then I saw a shooting star, like a really bright one, like right at that, like right when I was kind of in that mode. Right. But then it's like, okay, I've seen shooting stars before, so was it coincidental? Right. It's.
Try to look at it as a synchronicity, not so much.
Right.
I don't believe in coincidence personally.
Yeah.
I believe that things happen and people just don't pay proper attention. I've done exactly what you do. People talk about the CE5. Go over here, you meditate, get your flashlights or your laser light. When I had something really extreme happen here in the house, that it was literally me in my mind saying, before I had an understanding of it, saying, okay, I'm ready. And then a big bright light came just shooting through the front window, through the bedroom, ricocheted onto a light and bounced off. And I'm awake. I'm just like, what the hell was that?
You asked for it?
Yeah.
But I did. But saying, okay, I'm ready, I didn't expect an immediate thing to happen with like literally within hours, and getting a better understanding and just saying, okay, and then at nights I would wake up with hands on my head and I just may have said something like, touch me and I'll snap your neck or something like that, because
that sounds more like Michelle.
Yeah, because it's really freaking intrusive. I'm just like, I wake up and something, I'm like, just calmly don't move and I'll snap your freaking neck. And then I wonder why I don't get an experience for a while after that. But I mean, I've woken up to all kinds of stuff going on. I've gone to bed, not fallen asleep, and have a full 4 or 5 foot gray standing right beside me, so close I could touch it. That's me having a calmer moment, saying, okay.
Yeah.
We're the opposites with that.
Yeah. See, so it's I think the way you did it, just telepathically saying, okay, where are you? I've done that, where I've said, where are you? And then a flash in the sky just goes just like that. It's like, cool, okay. It's an acknowledgement. I think sometimes you want to know that they are close. And if you just reach out, it doesn't happen every time though, right? It just happens once in a while.
Can I just add something? Perhaps when you're saying, where are you? There are several others asking, and the collective is drawing them in, because then it's at the same time. It's a load of energy brought together. And I wonder how many other people are going, what the hell? I just asked, and look at, I wonder about that. Or is this just for you? Too many questions.
So there is that belief that only people who have been experiencers will be the ones that can see
it. Yeah.
That can see it. You could, there are reports of entire communities having, a UFO and you'll get 100 people out of 300 who all see it, but they're all in the same area and only 100 out of the 300 saw it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those that you've talked about with Joe on the Gray Zone. And I think I'm one of those people that walks right by it.
Sure.
Doesn't even know it's there.
Let's just go with that, Amelia.
I don't.
Oh, that's.
It isn't denial, but
I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm not looking for it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not reaching out. I will talk to the dark stuff, which is crazy. Some people would think that's even scarier.
It's because people believe in angels and demons. People have hard times with extraterrestrials.
I believe in that.
Could be one of the same.
I still have fear. I agree with you on that. We work on cases all the time where we wonder, is it the same thing? What do you think, Alan? Do you ever think, gosh, is this the same thing as angels and demons? You're the guest.
Don't let us hijack your show, Alan.
No, it's fine. I'm used to being on your side, so it's cool.
That's the problem, right? We all agree, and it's like, okay, how do we bring this? Yeah, I know.
No, I don't think they're the same at all.
Good.
I don't necessarily believe in angels or demons.
Right.
Yeah. I think
that's cool. That's different.
I think that there are likely entities that people are experiencing, and we're only defining them within the boundaries of what our culture has taught us.
Religion.
Religion. Fair. Yeah. But or even culture. I remember in the 90s there was this book. I don't know if you remember it. It was an angels, but it was like a picture book. Like it was angels, and it was like all these different drawings and sketches of people who have had contact with angels. And I remember one of them. I remember it looked kind of like a gray alien, with angelic features and like wings, and there were all these different variations. Some were a little bit more spindlier, some were
like a tall white,
typical tall white with and I was like,
Nordic.
These are kind of similar to extraterrestrials in some ways. It's interesting.
Yes.
So I think that there's the extraterrestrial, which is probably something like the little grays, that are often described as like drones, right, or robotic,
AI
in a way, AI of some sort. Sure. And then you have something else like the ultra terrestrials or whatever it is.
Sure.
And maybe that's where the
Yes.
category of angels come from, because if there are advanced sentient beings that can transverse different dimensions, which physics, at least the theoretical physics, kind of allows this, then that would probably explain it. I mean, if you were to see a being that lives in a different way with physics and time and space, maybe they can actually float, right? And so the stories are, it was floating and there's a glowing light around it. Well, we've seen UFOs that have glowing lights around it when they come and go, and disappear and reappear. So, maybe they're having that moment, and then they, you tell that story, and now that glowing light becomes wings. So I don't, or maybe they have wings, right? But I'm pretty sure in the earliest writings of the Old Testament they didn't have wings, but don't count me on that. But so I think that's what that is. These are, because when people have ayahuasca trips, we'll see like the serpent goddess and like all these other, demigod type beings.
Like Thor's in there? Thor and Odin and Loki? No, I'm serious.
No. Oh no. Well, there are people who have encounters with things like elves.
Oh yes.
Fairies.
Not like fairies on a psychedelic trip,
and
it hasn't.
Not friendly.
I've heard that a lot.
Just saying.
The fae seems to be a big one.
Well, the Irish mythology, the original like writings of it, or descriptions, are like big-headed, gray.
Yes,
that's what like a fairy is.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Big-headed, gray.
The same
with big
artist
eyes.
in all of these books, the same illustrator. What's going on?
Well, Mark always spoke about this on the
know.
show, a few weeks ago.
But that's really bizarre.
Yes. No, you know what? I think there's a lot of this lays in the roots of folklore, ancient civilizations. I believe all of the teaching, the knowledge has been left for us. A lot of it's been hidden, kept from us. A lot of it is, hidden in plain sight, maybe just waiting for people to wake up and recognize what it is, or stuff surfacing, on a regular basis. You're seeing people are finding runes. We have the technology now to help us find this stuff. But have we been conditioned to, no matter what we look at, it's just like, no, we're so staunch in what we have been taught in our upbringing with, a basic education and religion, and, it doesn't talk to you about things like that. I mean, we're all born gifted, and then somewhere along the line, once you're no longer that child, things change. And I believe it's those abilities that help you to recognize all of this stuff for what it is, for real.
Yeah, I think the answers are internal.
Yes.
Will we get? Is it even possible for the human mind to get it all anyway? I had a couple of bad trips in my life. One was bad, not too bad. One was horrific, and the horrific one started off with, it was like my mind just opened up to the cosmos, and the only way I can describe it was like a tornado pouring down everything into my mind. Like it was like this download, and it was so big and so intense. And I ended up going like crouching over, hands on my head, crouched down to the ground, and eventually was like weeping because I couldn't. It was just too much. It was so much information. And I wonder if that was kind of a lesson, like, you're trying to get all the answers, but your flesh is not going to be able to. There's not enough database up here.
It's like the physical. Yes. The physical doesn't get it, but it is all inside of our essence. Some people who have had extraterrestrial contact come back and have said that they feel that they've come back awakened, with all of their abilities intact. I think you reach a certain level with them. There have been those who come back and they're like, I remember everything. They gave me all my memories.
Or healthier.
Physically healthy. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is like, okay, so let's say our brain can't take all the information, maybe, but by having these paranormal experiences, metaphysical, doors that are open in our mind, that we can process a little bit here and there at a time, enough to kind of shift our consciousness, and that was the thing that the through thread in the documentary is this idea of it's all about love. And I really, really believe that.
Right.
Like, it comes like, there's so many wonderful things we can do with our brains. We can build rocket ships and go to Mars and
think about it. We're only using a small portion.
Yeah, and when you have these stimulating debates and whatnot, but it's like, at the end of the day, like if we can't find love, if we can't find that center within ourselves, I think, then what's the point? Because that, to me, that's the thing, right? So like for me, I still struggle. I get like bouts of like neurotic like anxiety or something, not a lot, but it's like comes in like little bits once in a while still. And I'm like, okay, I'm still working on that. And I think that's like what we have to do is we kind of have to keep working on that. But I think at the center of that, none of that matters. Like, I don't think you can find peace until you can find empathy and compassion and love for yourself and love for others. And oftentimes that's the message from these ETs, even the ones that are, abducting and doing the hybridization. And Tiffany Mack in the documentary even describes like kind of like similar to you, Michelle, where she's like, get off of me. Like, what's going on here? these beings. And then she said all of a sudden, boom, like she had this feeling of like peace and tranquility and love, like kind of rush over. And she was like, it was so beautiful and calm. And I think that only a being that can feel that can know
how to
give that to you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm of the same mind as you are on that. I think that there's a lot of hype out there that is, I think if you fear it, that's exactly what you're going to put out there. If you want to control the masses, you're not going to put out, go on out there and, embrace all of this. And, like disclosure is a huge part of that. And this is American disclosure. Do you know, like if you went to South America, like I think it's Brazil and Peru. In Brazil, they have for years, decades, been encouraging all of their pilots to report their experiences, whether they're military, regular, anybody. It all goes to an archive that is open to everyone who wants to research it. They're very open about all of this. France is the same. All these countries throughout the world embrace this. And, like on the Nazca Plateau, we just talked about this on the show, a different show on Saturday, where they found a cave with actual extraterrestrials, mummified extraterrestrials. And scientists there, in the US, I'm sorry, that would have been buried underground. Oh, but you never would have heard about it. But they're like, this like Peru. No, this is a thing. Here they are. They took all these pictures. It's online. You can find it. And it goes into the archive. Scientists came out and just talked about it.
I didn't know because I would imagine that like tons of scientists from universities all over would be like dying to go down there.
They did. And in 2018, they had, they spoke about it. Publicly speaking, there are papers on it. You can actually find it. And one was a hybrid. But the funny thing is they kept saying that they were reptilian, a human reptilian hybrid. And I'm looking, I'm going, that is gray as days long, got eyes as big, bubble heads on them. But there's one that had one little patch on it. That's all that looked like it had reptilian skin. I'm like, that doesn't constitute a reptilian. But one was found with eggs in the abdomen.
Wow, that's wow.
I will send you a link.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link.
How do we know that they don't all have big eyes like Grays?
most reptilians so
Someone's
far
like,
they
what?
don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I was going through the catalog of aliens in my head.
Yeah, and I'm
there's
thinking,
so
well, how
many.
do we?
Yeah.
When you
Because
see them,
that's the most, familiar thing for everyone.
it's a characteristic. I'll
Yeah,
you both the damn link, and both of you guys tell me what you think.
Well, I watch the show on Saturdays when you're on.
Yeah, so then you would have seen the photos, right? It's crazy.
It's just because you hear so many experiencers say, "Oh, these big eyes." It's like, but there are so many other races. Why are we only hearing about the Greys and the Nordics? Because the Nordics, the blonde and the,
Well,
I like Carrie's maybe hybrid gray and reptilian. That's a huge possibility
Apparently,
too.
that's not what the scientists were saying. And we're looking at it clear as day. I'm looking at his pictures going, no, it's just no way. But
it's crazy.
What?
Sorry.
I will find the article. I'll tell you what, I'll find the article. I'll post it on the Grey Zone or on the Outer Realm page for you guys to go in and have a look at it. But the point I'm trying to make is disclosure is this big worldwide thing, but it's American. It's a U.S. disclosure. That's this big thing. Well, we can't say this or that. The rest of the world can. You're the leading superpower. Yeah. Why can't you figure it out?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting when you think about it like that. So that may indicate that the United States has this tech, recovered craft, perhaps from Roswell. And so they don't want to open the door because opening that door will lead people down to the revelation that, we aren't, a lot of these UAPs are us. And that
you've been taking us? How do you tell your people you've been taking them?
Right. And but even if they weren't taking us, like they would never want, let's say Russia or China to know that they have this super high tech.
Russia's had more experiences in the US.
Yeah, but do they have the tech? That's the question, right?
I would almost say yes in a way.
You think so? Yeah.
I don't know.
They've had crashes landed like UFOs land. They've had them in their possession. Sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No. Don't apologize. Yeah. I'm just thinking out loud because all of this is often as you think this is similar information, it always has a twist. But I just wonder because we know, we speculate because of all of the interviews that the Americans are working with. Their government is working on a deeper level, darker level with the ETs. So why wouldn't they have a lot of the technology? I would also hope and pray that ETs would limit how much they give them because of past experiences. Wars and stuff like that. I would imagine that they're a lot brighter than we are. They don't want us to hurt each other. So they wouldn't give us too much that could gain control or power over another. That's what I like to believe.
That's my problem is the U.S. hides everything. Do you know that the KGB, I think it was back in the 70s, went to a tomb in Egypt and the mummified pharaoh was a tall gray and the KGB caught wind of it. And they had a contact in Egypt. This is common knowledge, people. Go find it. And they went in there and they have photographs of this pharaoh. And the KGB was found walking out with it.
Holy crap.
It's all there. It's all there. Downed crafts, experiences. Like they were the first ones to do CE5. Because their scientists had this one location, an old Air Force base that they would go to. They're like, we never had to go and look for extraterrestrials. They came to us.
You mean it wasn't Stephen Greer?
They came down. It's back in the freaking
Sorry, I had 50s, to do that.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Russia had their crap together.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you say that because a lot of people think Stephen Greer is the first one to come up with this because of his documentary.
Russian
they think
scientists were doing
look what Dr. Greer has done.
Nah, I'm telling you.
Alan's like, I'm never coming back on the show.
No.
I was like, what the hell?
You're giving me so much to think about.
Well, you just bring it all out in us. That's all.
No. Stephen Greer, my understanding is it wasn't just him, but it was him and like a small group of other people in the late 70s or early 80s that started the CE5 thing. he just popularized it and did documentaries on it and really solidified a group. But it was he and like a small group of people that started doing that together. And so the other people don't really get the credit for that.
Right. No, it's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's more marketable than the other people. But anyways.
Yeah. I mean, his push for free energy and 0 point energy, I thought was great. I mean, that was prescient. I mean, that was in the early 2000s. He was really pushing that, and that popularized him before he started, perpetuating the CE5 conversation. And I feel like Stevens I think he's coming from a good place. I think most people in this field come from a good place, and then they just kind of get locked into this is
the Hollywood side of it, Alan. Yeah, he charges a good penny to come to a conference and speak to people.
And you can do CE5,
like the equivalency of I don't know. We could probably have Arnold Schwarzenegger come in and.
I would
he's at that rate.
I'd much rather hang out with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Me too. No offense, Dr. Rare, but yes, me too.
No offense, extraterrestrials, but
because Arnold's gonna come back.
He always does. They're doing a sequel to Twins.
Are they really? I love Danny DeVito, but.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. You guys are
I found my twin flame. I can't help it. Alan's my twin flame. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, to charge to do that, there's it's kind of like going to a MUFON event, right? I mean, I can get together with a bunch of people and talk about UFOs, but there's something about organizing something and putting it together. The structure, the ritual, the scheduling, and that really is good for the community. It's community building, and I think that's important. And you pay for that.
Absolutely.
But with CE5, does it require a group setting? I mean, can you do it just by yourself? And
I've done it.
It seems to be
you can buy his app
that you can,
and he explains how you can do it. A lot of people have been purchasing them, and they go out, they use a technique, and they're doing it. But all I'm saying, all I'm saying is that I did it without any issues at all. And we've had people come on the show who said that they've wanted an experience so desperately that they just went out and asked for it. Now, sometimes it takes a few attempts, but they always get it. So that tells me that it can be done just through telepathically putting it out there.
Do you ever wonder what's in that app and why it's working? Does he have like some side doorway or back door into ET saying, hey, let's do this, right? The Italian in me's coming out. Let's do this. I'll get this app. You'll have more conversations, and then you can run the world.
I saw his show.
Through the app.
Think about it. What's he doing with that app besides making millions?
Did you see Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where he was the documentary and they were in a desert setting? What was instrumental to me that made me a believer was an older man was interviewed, and they were a group of 10. He said, I don't hear too good, right? So when they interviewed him, he said, in my mind, I was reaching out to these extraterrestrials, and all I said was, if you've come to me, please speak up, because these old ears don't hear very well anymore. Someone captured a photo of him, and there was a gray behind him with its hands on his ears and on his ears. And he said, I can hear now. Someone got a photo of it. And there's a gray right behind. And they showed the photo. And I thought, okay, anything's possible. It might be fudged. It might be blah, blah, blah. But this man's in tears. Like, it was such an emotionally overwhelming experience for him. There's got to be something to it,
I agree with you on that one.
Well, it's, I wish we can have more photos like that. I mean, like with ghosts, let's say.
Yeah.
You mean shown, right, Ellen? Because we know they're out there. Just somebody stopping them from getting out there. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some great investigators out there that are using SLS, motion sensing equipment.
Oh, got it.
In combination with like an EVP recorder, a recorder that captures an EVP at the same time on camera. So like the investigators like, hey, whatever they think the ghost name might be or whatever, are you there? And then all of a sudden the SLS like stick figure starts moving. Out. They get an EVP at the same time.
That's what makes it more viable.
Pretty darn.
It's like a cross-referencing. You have the two at the same time.
You're corroborating. One for the other. So that's like the closest that we've gotten to it. I know some people will pick up like maybe a shadow or like a light mist. But
get something on a negative. You can't fudge a photo on a negative.
I love old school film.
I've seen all kinds of film.
Yeah, me too. I love film.
Because the image is in the negative.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can't, there's no fudging it, right?
No.
I mean, you can analyze that.
I was just going to say, Michelle always says, use a Polaroid.
Polaroid.
Yeah.
They get pricey though.
I think the prices are coming down a little bit though, because there's like a fad now of like having like younger generations, like teenagers, want Polaroids now because it's like a cool thing. Kind of like in the 90s we wore bell bottoms for a little while.
Yeah.
Wait, they're coming back, Alan. I swear to you. No, this season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Not bell bottoms. Why they call them something different? High-waisted, wide bottom pants, cool, but they are bell bottoms and they are back for the fall and winter.
Isn't that amazing?
Just like every saying.
20...
All right, it's that time.
Every 20 years, cyclical. Yeah. Oh, yes. Geez. Yes.
Of course.
Otherwise, we would not be able to talk to you right now.
It's true. Get our butts canned.
Oh my gosh! Right? Okay. Terrible. It's not bad enough. I fudged everything else up. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live on 105.3 FM radio from the gorgeous city of New Orleans, that I believe is probably even more beautiful right now during this time of year. Tonight's guest is Alan B. And we are really making him think. That's all I'm going to say. Poor guy. Let's hope he comes back.
Yeah, because we pretty much hijacked him.
We are hijacking his show. It's terrible, but we're all kindred spirits here. We're all on the same side, so that's why. Shout out and thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. Thank you for your support and your continuing sponsorship. And we cannot forget the great Justin Snicker, Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, award-winning composer and musician. He is the composer of our intro and outro. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. And don't forget to follow him on Facebook and Instagram. He keeps dropping clips of his Halloween music, and he is the best at this. Stream or listen to our archives in the platform that you normally use. Please remember to like and hit that subscribe button as well.
And
I feel like I should. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I said we are on 8 different chat rooms tonight. We are airing on 8 different locations. So just be patient with us. We are seeing things, and we will try to get some of those questions answered a little bit more towards the end of the show. Okay. Go. Your turn.
Well, no, I was going to say, I feel like I should help.
Go, do it.
I was like, I feel like I should help out now and start singing the Folgers song, but like changing it a little bit. Like the best part of staying up is Folgers in your cup.
There we go.
Nice.
Throwing that out there.
Because
I love coffee.
Do a commercial and promote yourself. We do play them.
People actually do commercials for us. They promote themselves, but the key is Folgers has to be in there, and we've got people showing cups, little cups.
You should play him dollies.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's just for fun.
Play dollies so that you can see what you need to bring us, Alan.
Right,
Dolly Saffron.
Dolly Saffron did a commercial for us. Yeah.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Bam. Anyway, it's a great way to advertise yourself. It's a great way to advertise Folgers, because Folgers actually does watch the show.
They watch the show. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we have some of the brass likes to watch the show, and so
you can promote your film.
And it stays in the archives forever and ever. And our archives, especially on SoundCloud, goes.
I'm down with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you have a great voice too. So
thank you.
Do it and send it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now I have to. I feel like
I know it's a challenge. I'm going to do
it.
That's why we applied that pressure.
Yeah.
Wow. There we go.
So I can say thanks, Folger, for watching my film Half Light.
There we go.
Yes, and you can find that on, and you just put that right there.
Yeah.
So when you're having a rough go of it, just trying to make that film, and you have to keep yourself up.
Gotcha. Except on my podcast, I also have a coffee sponsor.
So
Yes.
I have to be careful.
I get it. I get it.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, they're totally cool. It's not like that. Yeah, that's fine.
People tag me on Facebook when they're at a popular coffee spot. I'm not going to mention began in Seattle, but anyways, and I'm like, I cannot let you sit on my timeline. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Hubby drinks Folger's coffee. Carol Hernandez, hello. Yes.
Just saying, as he should.
Yeah.
I noticed earlier, Carol asked a question about UFOs somewhere in the comments about, are UFOs seen in every country? And it's true, yes.
Or she says they are, yeah. Okay, well, we can go back if you want to hit on some of the question. We're going to go all the way into the Wayback Machine right now where we're talking about shadow people. And here we go. Amelia.
Yes,
ready,
Steve
set, go.
White says, very interesting subject on one of the theories about shadow people being time travelers. Now it makes me wonder, can some spirits time travel? I don't know. Just thought I put it out there. I'm glad you put it out there because I wonder about that too.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I think that is a plausible idea because if they're time traveling in such a way as to not physically interact with reality, then that would make sense. So you don't accidentally, bump someone while they're building the Great Pyramid. But then you still have the problem of the butterfly effect. Like, how many people do we know that their whole life trajectory has changed because they saw shadow people? So that's the only challenge I have with the time traveling. Unless we're looking at like the many worlds theory, and that they're not actually time traveling within their timeline, within their dimension, parallel dimension, but they're coming to ours, which is very similar.
Yes.
Or if not almost identical, and traveling through ours, because they're like, well, if we mess theirs up, no big deal. Ours is still linear.
Maybe we're the rehearsal.
Damn it, I think we're just in a matrix. I want to go back to my own reality.
Maybe we're the rehearsal, right? I like Ufi says there's a story about a UK spirit time traveling to influence the past.
So makes you wonder, how would a spirit do that? I guess they just come and blabber off everything going on.
Joe's favorite word, dimensional
bleed through. Yes, thank you, Joe. We see you sitting there sneaking into YouTube under your own name.
Didn't we learn didn't we learn from Back to the Future and the show Supernatural that time traveling is not something in time loop that you should really be doing? I don't know. I just find it so intrusive and it's interfering. It's not necessarily, I don't feel like it's for our greater good. I feel like it's for theirs.
Maybe.
Yeah. I guess it's like the extraterrestrials. If they're just curious, if they're studying us, then it's for their own good, and maybe they don't care, what happens to us. Maybe we're just a lower life form to them.
Oh God,
it could very easily.
I know, it's so sad.
And I'm saying them as if there's one. Again, like I think that there's, multiple non-human intelligences that are interacting with humans for thousands of years. So it's hard. It's so difficult to pin down what that is. But I think that the most important thing that all of us are doing is constantly having conversations, because over the decades, like all these conversations lead little by little to new ideas. And then on top of that, you have all the amateur researchers. And I really encourage people to just, whether you're a armchair researcher, whether you're in the field researcher, a Twitter researcher, like nowadays, whatever it is, do it if you enjoy it, because you are contributing. All the work of like MUFON and NICAP and APRO have collected just like millions of pages of data on contactee experiences, eyewitness experiences. One day we'll be able to make sense out of a lot of that, more than we have now, and it'll hopefully all kind of coalesce. So scientists aren't doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but there's more and more coming around to it. I don't know if it's true, I heard that there is perhaps a new college branch, or at least accredited classes in the University of Pennsylvania where you can study extraterrestrial.
That makes sense.
The study of extraterrestrial life and visitation. But there's not enough of the scientific and university, community. That's why the amateur researchers are so important, because they're doing the hard work, they're doing the field work, they're doing the reading, the digging through archives, and FOIA documents and all of that. So one day it'll make sense. It'll all come together, I'm sure of it.
It makes sense that it's Pennsylvania, because that's where they started with the paranormal. That's where the actual TV show started, was Penn State, right?
Oh, well, yeah, the Paranormal State.
Yeah. It makes sense that they would start with the UFO. They'd be the first, the pioneers of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paranormal State was probably the first hit television show, I think, right? Regarding that was even before Ghost Hunters, I think.
It long before, and I think that was a huge introduction to Chip Coffey and Lorraine Warren for those who didn't know anything about it, because they frequented those shows. I have the whole collection of all of them, but I learned a lot from there because they had so many experts, right?
That's me.
That's you. I was going to say, is Joe putting himself up there?
Now, the International Community for Alien Research is primarily owned by a producer, Joe Montaldo, owner of the station. It's got over 65. It's the largest network in the world that does, from an abductee experience or contactee standpoint, it is tons and tons and tons of information by people who have gone through this. And it's his organization, and this is people around the world. So that's it right there.
That's big. Yeah.
That is big. And he also does all kinds of interviews, and he broke the story on the negative blood type DNA, stuff like that too. That he broke on Ancient Aliens when he did it. Want to be connected? I can connect you.
So we have a bit of a relationship with him.
He is. This is.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So check them out for sure. A lot of photographs on that website. It's got a larger 2 web pages, but the group page. There's probably about 10,000 people on it. It's private groups.
Debuted his. He premiered the story of being on that ship with what could have been and what couldn't have been.
The Nimitz. He was on the Nimitz. The Nimitz has had 2 experiences with UFOs, actually, and one was where the ship landed on it. So, but I don't know that he can talk about that anymore. I think they put him back under.
Did they?
Yeah,
because that show's still out there.
I know.
Because he broke it on the Outer Realms. So I'm just saying.
He did. Yeah. So
the story's still there.
There's a lot to all of this, and I think this is just one more example of people coming forward and doing something for the good of the UAP community. But this is different because it's not geared to UFO sightings like a lot of these organizations are. This is abductee researcher, contactee experiencers, all of that. So it's quite interesting, to say the least. What do you have to say about people who are always trying to debunk all this stuff? Because there are no experts.
It depends, right? It depends. Sometimes it's like, thank you. And sometimes it's you're not helping at all. You're making things worse for everyone involved here, especially for those who saw something. And not only did they see something, they saw something with someone else. Right. And they weren't both crazy. And I think it's really unfair to make people feel like there's something wrong with them.
Do you feel it hurts the field? Really? I mean, you have to have balance, but there are no experts in the field of paranormal. This isn't like ufology,
Although, there are similarities. For instance, the issue with having a control. You can't control the UFOs. You can't control ghosts, right? And a lot of the same debunking techniques, typically like psychological explanations, are applied to whether it's somebody who thinks they saw a ghost or a shadow person or an extraterrestrial or Bigfoot.
Right.
Somehow people who are accustomed to being in the woods have seen bears a million times, confused a bear this time for Bigfoot.
Right.
It's just it really it's insulting, and it undercuts the legitimacy of qualified, sane individuals.
And I don't you think it would make witnesses hesitant to come forward?
Well, it does. It still works that way. Yeah. No, it's still true. But it's also nice to have a challenge, because sometimes people just want to believe something so much. There was a recent sighting in Texas. This just happened days ago. It was a Florida. It was a Florida, Texas. I can't remember. It was right around there. But UFO Jane had reported on this. And Mick West, when he saw the video of this flock of UFOs, was like, it's fake. Blah 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 blah. Well, it turned out that someone actually faked the video. Actually got like people, like not having to pay anybody, just people on a dock somewhere to hey everyone, can you look up in the sky and go, oh my God, what is that? What is that? She recorded them, and then she created this whole fake video and put it online. So that's a clear, fake UFO that where a debunker comes in and did their job like right off the bat. But then there's other cases like the gimbal, the 2015 gimbal of the USS Roosevelt. That I had Mick West on my show, and his issue was, there's something wrong with the instrumentation. Maybe did they check the systems? I don't know. Right? It's like, did they do this? I don't know. And they just kind of leave it like that. Which there's nothing wrong with speculation on both sides and saying, I don't really know. But I think what happens is the debunker doesn't do the extra legwork, or doesn't want to hear certain things. Like it turns out that there were diagnostics run on the sensors of that equipment. And you have these jets that had FLIR sensor, they had infrared, and they had visual contact and multiple eyewitness visual contacts. Like, this is a dream. Yeah, like, this is a debunker's dream. A debunker would be like, a debunker would say, give me different videos of the same thing. Well, we're giving you not just different videos,
right?
Like different technological sensors and eyewitness accounts. Like that's when I get frustrated.
Yes.
I don't mind you challenging us, but sometimes you just got to admit, like,
it's there.
It's there. There's something clearly in that. If you want to argue if it's ET or not is another thing.
Right.
But there was a craft there, and it was exotic and behaving ways that defied physics. And I think some people just, even when the evidence is so blatant in their face, like the Travis Walton event, they just won't go. They just won't admit it. They'll run in circles.
Isn't it crazy when you have government officials going up there on news, international news, and saying, yeah, this exists, and you're still sitting at home saying, nah. And you know what's frustrating for me, and I'd love your opinion on this, how the paranormal and ufologists can actually butt heads and say, no, there's no such thing as ET. No, there's no such thing as ghosts. It's like, how can you believe in one and not the other?
It's interesting. I almost feel like there's kind of this, it's so hard to convince people that ghosts are real that if you talk about all these other things, then it's too crazy. And it kind of reminds me, I'm thinking of this parallel just because it relates to another documentary my wife and I had done years ago about LGBTQ rights. And in the early movement of the LGBTQ movement, before there was a Q, it was the gay and lesbian rights movement. And but transgender people, were the one that started at the riots at Stonewall and all that stuff. But even during the 80s, the transgender people were ostracized because I shouldn't say a lot, some gay and lesbian individuals thought that if they included too early in the fight transgender people, it would be too much for the public. Like they wouldn't be able to wrap their head around it. It'd be too weird, to try to get them to understand the biodiversity and why they are. And so they shine.
Baby steps. It was a different time. But for the people for the people who are experiencing these life changes, it's devastating.
It is.
Yeah. They felt ostracized and were pushed out. And that's not always true. I mean, there was obviously tons of loving and kind, gay and lesbian people, but there was a fraction of people that felt that way. And I kind of feel like that same mentality exists within some people. Again, I think it's a small fraction that are just like, stop distracting everybody with all this stuff. I'm trying to convince them, that goes to real.
Right.
It's like an overload, like a sensory overload. And there's kind of a truth to that. That definitely exists. In the ufological community and has for a long time. The whole, like the strict nuts and bolts.
I think it's difficult. There's so many shows on television right now, and there's so much propaganda with it too. Sometimes just because you have a show doesn't mean you should have a show, but yet there are other shows that are really well done, and I think that people emulate what they see. So it's really important going in that people realize, like, this is a show. There is no creative control unless you are somebody, like Zach Bagans, a guy is like he's just a business genius, but
he's his own production.
He's his own production and has been from like very early on. But you get so many seasons in, you are given your creative control and you get your input. He was just fortunate to have it literally. It was his show they put on. Much like yourself, my movie, my rules, this is the way it goes.
And
you
timing.
Want to air it, it's like this. And it did really well. And it's got its lovers and it's got its haters. But, I've seen shows come on and I'm gobsmacked. I'm like, did I just seriously see this right now? Because it's so poorly done. It's almost as though some people don't realize, like, there are those couch investigators that, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, there's just nowhere they can't belong to a team. Maybe there's just nobody in their area. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have, a lot of places have events where you can go to a haunted house. They open it up, come and investigate it. Everybody pays so much. You have an evening out, whatever, ghost tours, being with like-minded people. Not everybody has that option. So they're living it through the program that they're watching, and that's what they emulate. Children watch this stuff, they emulate. So if you're not at least emulating something credible, or as credible as it can be considering the field, it makes it really hard because that's what's going out there. And then Facebook pages start coming up, or social media, and we're a group now. It's like, oh gosh, this is scary. There's good groups and there's some groups that are at least will reach out to more educated people and say, look, can you help us out with this?
I know, but until networks become responsible and accountable.
That's accountability. There's another big one. It's not like it's all people just going out and researching public places. You have people who have very little experience going out and helping families. So let's talk accountability. What are your thoughts on people going in, and helping people who are in trouble?
I think they have to be really, really careful and extraordinarily sensitive. Any investigation you have to start with in your mind. From all the people that I've talked to, is this person seeking attention? And that's a horrible thing to say, but you have to think about that.
You have them. They're out there.
Are they seeking attention? Are they unwell? So you have to look for signs of this. One way, this is I guess more old-fashioned kind of investigation, but I know investigators, if they would meet someone in their home, after an event, they would look around and just see, does this person have, a bookcase's worth of science fiction, UFOs, DVDs.
Subjective.
So right, so that doesn't mean just because you're into science and UFOs mean you didn't actually see a UFO, but they just have to consider that as a factor and think, okay, maybe they've embellished their story, because their story, sometimes people really want to be believed because they saw something that they feel like they have to convince you. So you can't be contrarian to them. You can't nod and go along with everything that they say either.
No,
it's a really fine line. And I know when you interview people, you probably have a similar experience, on this show too. So that's where you start, and then I think when it comes to guidance, I think if someone is a legit psychic medium, I think that they can be more helpful. Because if they're really intuitive. But I would never give anybody direction. I would never personally I'm not a qualified psychologist.
That's the big one. Yeah.
I'm not a therapist. Like I would never do that. But if someone is helping someone who's dealing with ghosts, and they can guide them with methodologies to hopefully rid the ghost or bring it peace, communicate it, live with it in a balanced manner. If you have a psychic medium that can come in and communicate for you on your behalf, and then that's the way to do it. But you should never deal with someone's trauma as an investigator. Like never. It's not an investigator's job at all.
It's happening a lot.
Just by being there. By being there should be enough. To say, I accept what you're saying. That if someone who really had a real experience, that's a comfort. It's no different than any other kind of support.
They just want to be believed that they're not going crazy. Like they just want some sort of semblance. Like I think it depends on, are you dealing with one person having the experience, or you're dealing with several people in the house having the experience? I'm a true believer in mindset. I believe just by empowering people and making them or putting them in control of the situation, a lot of things can change. Because even if there's nothing going on, you have to ask yourself, okay, then what is it that's making them believe that there's something going on? And that's where dealing with mindset and educating people come in, because you can go in, it's not like waving a magic wand. You can go in and do anything you want. But if they don't believe you, and they don't believe it, and they're still, I'm dealing again with malevolent things. That's what I'm basically leaning towards. So you feel like a hostage because you have all of this malevolent stuff going on. Maybe these things are known to amp up pre-existing conditions, addictions, depression, anxiety, all kinds of things like that. They can also create them. So you need to figure out which came first. But at the end of the day, there's something that's oppressing them. Whether it's they're oppressing themselves or something else is oppressing them. How do you deal with that? I've worked with psychologists and I've worked with psychiatrists, because when I deal with a true blue case, in a lot of cases where I've had to come in, I want them tested by at least 2 people, and I want permission from those doctors to let me come in. Like, because you're right. I'm not a psychologist. I can't just come in and say, oh, hey. No. Like the real hardcore stuff where, let's say they want to work with their clergy, for example, then I'm sorry. Then you have to go down the medical route as well. You have to.
Yeah. There are things that people can give us suggestions for dealing with the entity, though, or whatever it is that they're in conflict. That's I think that's great. If it's whether it's burning sage around the house, meditating, sometimes just changing the type of music or the shows that you watch, because
raise your vibrations.
Right. Exactly.
Open the windows.
Life is about frequency, vibrations, positive energy, high vibes, as I say.
Music, big one. Stop watching paranormal shows. Just saying.
Sad but true. In some cases, like you live it. Some people do really live this stuff.
Right. And there's that line. I seen a comment that Goofy talks about lines being blurred, and I think that to extrapolate on that, going back to what we were talking about before, the brain waves, right? Literally the brain wave. There's electromagnetic waves that come out of our brain into the tissue and surrounding area that is carrying the same exact data as the signals between the neurons. And so that makes me wonder that maybe that's why some people can see a ghost and a camera can't.
Right.
Like a human can visually see a ghost, but a camera can't, because it's our brain waves are interacting with our environment.
Right.
And somehow we're processing it in a different way.
Anything is possible.
Sometimes it's the other way around.
Yeah.
The camera catches it, but we don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like it's just one of those things. Like we use such a small fraction of our brain. We don't really have a full understanding of what we are capable of. Okay. Last question.
Carol Hernandez, how many personalities could this person have? I'm not joking on this one. Do you believe in multiple personalities?
I do.
Are they asking if I have multiple personalities or
no? I don't know who this person is, who she's talking about, but
I don't either. I'm wondering.
I guess hypothetically.
Hypothetical.
Okay. The people we're helping. I understand. Okay. The
got
people.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So dealing with personalities instead of spirits.
Well, it's a real disorder, though.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It comes out of a coping mechanism, which are most psychological disorders come out of a coping mechanism of some kind. Trauma. Yeah.
Right. So yes, it's possible.
So yeah, but now it's a really interesting approach to this. If someone has multiple personality disorder, does one personality see something in the other doesn't? That's really, I've never thought about that.
That's a good observation.
Yeah. Thanks, Carol, for that. Because
that's
something
a good one. About. Note to self. Yeah. Remember that one.
Note to self, right?
Yeah.
To this self, not the other self.
This self. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's a real thing that people struggle with.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I know someone who has that. That's not. That's a difficult life.
Well, we're at the top of the hour already, so this is the part where you promote yourself, tell everybody what you have coming up, how to find you, what you've got going on. And
you can sing Folgers again if you want.
Sure, we can do that too. Actually, a little twist on it.
Yeah, I think I've sung myself tonight. Let's see. So yes, you can find the documentary Half-Light on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Mystic Lounge. Just like my name in the YouTube profile here. You just click on that, and it's the featured video on the top of that. That's the first cut. Then there is the slightly refined cut, which is on Tubi. So if you have Tubi, which is free, you can watch Half-Light on Tubi. So just punch in Half-Light or Alan B. Smith, it'll pop up, and you'll see the other documentaries that I help, co-produce as well. And then of course you can follow me on Twitter at paranormal_now or on Instagram at paranormal now.
There we go. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
You're so much fun. You're so much fun.
I love this.
Tell your wife thank you for letting you go for 2 hours.
I know.
Thank you for sharing you with us.
We did two crazy birds sitting here on the outer realms.
Oh my goodness.
No, but
I
thank
can
you.
hang out in the Outer Realm any time. You guys make the Outer Realm a great place to be. So
thank you. Yeah, we'd
so
absolutely love to
sweet.
do it again. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we need to let you talk next time. So
yeah, we'll do that too.
we kind of owe you.
All right. Well, thank you, and we'll be in touch, and we'll definitely do it again.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
You too. Good night.
Thank you. Oh gosh. So that was awesome. Boy, what a breath of fresh air. Just he's a good sport because, sometimes people bring up things. It's like, that is what a round table really is, though. It's everybody's bouncing things around, but I don't think the poor guy got to bounce as much as we did. But huge thank you to Alan B. Smith just for being here and just being a champion. So thank you. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Dr. Snick. Remember, wherever you are watching the show, please subscribe, like us, follow us. whatever the case may be. If you want to communicate with us, maybe you want to talk about something you've seen on the shows, maybe you agree, maybe you don't, you disagree. We do value your opinions. We really do, because it's what makes us evolve. So please feel free to reach out at the outer realm contact@gmail.com. If you want to be on the show or you want to see someone on the show, we do our best, never, a guarantee, of course, but again, the outer realm contact@gmail.com. We just don't do messengers. Just I can't. I just have too much. So I apologize. I'm never trying to be rude. I just can't keep up with the amount of messages I get on all my social media, and I go in there and realize that someone's messaged me. It's like, God, like 4 days ago. So anyway, not trying to be rude. Now, tomorrow night, going to be another awesome show. It's all I have to say. For anybody who have seen the hit TV show, Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, okay? It's not what it seems, not like, thing on a rampage and everything. Like, there's a lot of like history. There's a lot to this. But we are going to be bringing on Kyle McDowell. He's going to be joining us, and he's just so delightful. He is just awesome. And he's going to be discussing his experiences and discussing what the whole concept of this whole experience was. And the show, it's just going to be amazing. It's had one season. They're hoping to get another season, and I am an avid fan of it. I really loved this show. And you'll hear me say, if it's not a good show, I'll tell you, and he wouldn't be coming on. But if he's coming on, it's because it's like, gads, this was a really good show. So join us tomorrow evening and get your questions together. Google it if you haven't seen it, and check it out and get into chat, and we'll give him a big outer realm welcome, because that's what we do. Anyway, everybody behave. We'll see you all tomorrow night.